I didn't start to see muscle and experience the type of results that I have today at 55 until the last 2 years because I was doing some things wrong. What should you focus on if you're trying to burn fat? Cardio or strength training? I'm going to share with you some studies, statistics, and some great anecdotal stories that are going to help you make a decision. Because let's face it, we don't have all day to work out. You want to make the most of your time in the gym. And if you're a woman who's trying to reduce her body fat, you're in luck because today I'm going to share with you the quickest way to melt away fat. Hey, thanks for joining me. My name is Chalene Johnson, and if you don't know me, have spent probably the last 3 decades helping women to get fit, get in shape, drop the weight, and shed body fat. And probably like a lot of you, having grown up in like the 80s and 90s, all we did was cardio. I was a cardio queen. I mean, I remember growing up watching my mom do Jane Fonda and Richard Simmons. It was cardio everything. In the 80s, it was all about cardio. Step aerobics in general, like scrunch socks and thong leotards. Everything was high impact and intense, long duration, endurance cardio. That's what we believed, and that's what we were conditioned to believe was like the best way to get fit and be healthy. In the 2000s, I started doing, if you're not familiar with my story, I started creating programs for fitness clubs.
I'm glad you're here because I saved you the best spot in class. We are going to crush it today.
I created a program called Turbo Kick. Turbo Kick was endurance-based kickboxing. It was high intensity, long duration. I mean, you had to have endurance to do a workout like this. And those kind of workouts were really popular, like boot camps and rowing classes, cycling, step aerobics, you name it. Today, it's like Orange Theory and Barry's Boot Camp. These workouts, whether you're doing like one of those with a group of people, like group exercise, or if you've taken up running, that was the thing. That was what I did. It was what we believed was the only way to lose weight. Like in fact, for me personally, I never wanted to diet. And I believed if I really just focused on doing enough cardio, I could burn off the calories and I could maintain my weight. And you know what? It worked. It worked in my 20s. It worked in my 30s. Started to not work so well in my 40s. So if you're someone who this has worked for you in the past, I understand that. Like, you should also understand that the way the body works is it's always looking for homeostasis. It's always trying to like regulate things. And when it comes to calories in particular, if you're burning a lot of calories from doing a particular workout, you're always going to burn more calories when the workout is new. But the more conditioned we are to do something like running or endurance training, our bodies become better, more efficient. And that would seem like a good thing, but it's not a good thing when you're trying to burn a lot of calories. And in fact, then it starts to work against you because now you're training as hard as you possibly can, but your body is burning fewer calories because your body's always trying to conserve energy. So interesting story. So I started creating these workout programs for health clubs. They were Turbo Kick, Pyo, Hip Hop Hustle. And at the same time, I was also teaching step aerobics, boot camp classes. So I was doing cardio all the time. I was a full-blown cardio queen. At the same time, I knew the science behind strength training and how important it was. So I was doing strength training as well, like 5 days a week. But it wasn't until, like spoiler alert, it wasn't until like the last 2 years, even though I haven't changed my strength training routine, I didn't start to see muscle and experience the type of results that I have today at 55 until the last 2 years because I was doing some things wrong. I was doing a lot of things wrong. And I'm going to share with you what those things are and why it is. I want to shift your mindset around the type of exercise you're doing today. So I'm teaching all these fitness classes. Everybody's doing cardio. We're all doing massive amounts of cardio. Eventually, my programs become really popular in health clubs. I think we were in, I don't know, we were in every single state, I think something like 60 different countries, tens of thousands of people, millions, in fact, were eventually doing my turbo workout, which was high endurance, long endurance cardio. And I caught the attention of fitness infomercial companies. I eventually started doing fitness infomercials for consumers. It was the first time in my life that suddenly my body was marketable. Do you know what I mean? Like my body became part of the product, and that's just kind of like, that's a whole nother story. In fact, I've done a YouTube video on this, a previous podcast where I talked about why it was I decided to leave the consumer fitness business. And a lot of that was because I loved fitness. I still love fitness, but becoming the product, becoming the thing that I had to look a certain way to be marketable. I mean, let's face it, we all do this. If you go to try a new workout, you look at the person who created it, right? And you're like, okay, if they've got a good body, then this must be a good workout. And that's especially true in the consumer fitness space. So now I was suddenly in this arena where, especially for women, smaller was better at that time. And so I was constantly being pressured into being smaller and to lose more body fat. And at one point, it just got so unhealthy for me, and I didn't know. The only thing I knew was that doing more cardio would help me to lose weight, and I wanted to lose weight. What I didn't realize is that process also meant all of the strength training I was doing was futile. Because in order to build muscle, number one, you have to have your hormones in balance. I'm telling you, I was doing the same things then that I'm doing now, but now I have results. And the difference was I was overtraining. So if you're someone you feel like you've been doing all the things right, but maybe you're still running, stop running. Stop running. But I'm also going to tell you that if your goal is longevity, if your goal is to improve every marker of your health, if your goal is to reduce your body fat with minimal impact on your joints and your inflammatory markers, you need to stop doing the endurance training. Instead, I want you to do zone 2 cardio, which, by the way, you can get into zone 2 while you're doing strength training or walking. But most importantly, you have to understand what it takes to build muscle. So if you're lifting and you're also doing massive amounts of cardio, you're probably not giving yourself adequate time to allow your body to actually replenish and to build muscle. That's number one. Number two, if you're constantly in a massive calorie deficit, your body doesn't have what it needs in order to create muscle hypertrophy, which is muscle growth. And in order for us to have muscle growth, we have to be consuming enough protein. Typically speaking, that means 1 gram of protein for every pound of your ideal body weight. So let's just use round numbers. So let's say that your goal is to be 150 pounds. Then you would likely, optimal would be for you to focus on trying to get about 150 grams of protein. Now that might sound like a lot, but if you make it your goal and you just start getting close to it, you're going to see amazing results. But you're never going to get close to that number if you're constantly doing long endurance cardio. Okay, so here I am. I'm doing these fitness videos. I'm doing tons and tons of cardio. I'm being told I have to get smaller and smaller. I feel this pressure to lose more weight. So the only thing I know to do, because I can't eat less, the only thing I know to do is to do more cardio. So in addition to teaching my regular, cardio classes, I started running 30 minutes a day or running sometimes an hour a day. And what I noticed is even though I was shrinking smaller, everything was breaking down in my body. Everything hurt. And I could look at food and gain weight. I was cranky. I was tired. I was sore. I couldn't sleep. My body wasn't healing proper. And most of all, no muscle. I didn't have a butt. I didn't have biceps. Sometimes you look at women who you think they're very lean, and you think because you can see their muscle that they probably have more muscle or they've got good muscle tone. But a lot of times, especially when someone's overtraining, you can see the muscle, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they're healthy, and it doesn't mean that they've got enough muscle mass to improve their longevity. So when I decide this is not healthy for me, I want to be healthy. I had my brain scanned at the Amen Clinic in 2017, and it was having a really serious conversation with Dr. Amen after looking at my brain and looking at all of my labs, looking at my hormone levels. I was 45 years old. This is in 2015. So I was 46 years old, looking at my labs and seeing that every one of my hormonal markers was in the dumps. I thought I was like the pinnacle of health, supposedly. I'm like on TV. Whenever you're watching late night infomercials, you're going to see me. I'm selling you health and fitness, but yet I'm being told by the most renowned doctor who's looking at my brain that I'm not healthy, that almost all of my essential, like vitamin D was non-existent. My magnesium levels, omega-3s, like everything was off. And I didn't understand because I thought I was eating healthy. The problem was I wasn't eating enough. Number one. Number two, the gut permeability I had from lifestyle choices and the fact that I was not ever allowing my body to train, to heal. And of course, considering my age, I was also in perimenopause. So I had to do a couple things, the most impactful of which were changing my approach to lifestyle. I had to walk away for me to be healthy mentally, physically. I chose to step away from the consumer fitness space. And I didn't make a public announcement. Again, I've told that story in detail, and it was a hard time to go through at that season of my life because I couldn't really talk about why I was leaving the consumer space, the fitness space. And I was still exercising, but everything had to change. And for several years there, I did some reverse dieting and just tried to figure out, like, what do I need to do to get healthy? And I started like looking at research papers, and I believe it was in like 2019, so several years later, that I finally had my hormones in check. I started on hormone replacement therapy. And I know a lot of us think like, oh, that's going to fix everything. I'm going to lose all the weight. It did help me to balance out my hormones. It helped with sleep. It helped with a lot of things. But I just couldn't. I felt like my body was working against me. I was still lifting heavy. And I was still doing the cardio. I was doing HIIT training, but I could not drop the weight. Like I was just adding more pounds. And I'm not trying to like tell you a story like it was, I became obese. I just wasn't myself, and I think as women, we start to believe like, well, this is aging. My mom told me this was going to happen, or everyone always says like at a certain point, it's all going to catch up with you. And so there was a part of me that was just kind of resigned to that. Like, oh, okay. So this is your metabolism just slows down as you get older because I'm doing all the things I was always doing, but like, I just felt different. I felt thicker. I felt less like myself physically. But here's the thing. Energy-wise, I felt good. I felt a million times better energy-wise. And that's because I finally had my hormones in check. And that's because I was getting more sleep and I was, supplementing. I started like really paying attention to my vitamin D and my omegas, and I started taking care of my brain health. I started doing hyperbaric. So I was doing those things. But there was one thing that I was still doing wrong, and that was the cardio. So it was in 2019, I remember I was looking in the mirror, and I was like, why does my face feel rounder? Like my face is round. And I literally Googled it. You know how you do, you go on Google and you type in your result. And as I'm Googling my results, one of the things that came up was Cushing's disease. And I'm like, wow, I'm reading through all of the symptoms and side effects of Cushing's disease. I'm like, could I have Cushing's disease? And then I discovered a study done in 2019 by the Journal of Endocrine, where they looked at the inflammatory markers of people who were doing chronic endurance, high-intensity workouts, like yours truly. And guess what they found? They discovered these individuals had inflammatory markers that almost mimicked exactly Cushing's disease. They had increased cortisol levels, which is going to give you that round face appearance, which is going to make you hold body fat around your midsection. It increases all of your stress hormones. It decreases your testosterone. It decreases human growth hormone. Like all of the markers that allow your body to more efficiently burn fat. Well, your body isn't meant chronically to be doing long. I'm sorry that some of the marathoners are not going to want to hear this, but our bodies were really not built to be doing long endurance, high intensity workouts. Eventually, it just creates systemic inflammation. And that's what I was experiencing. So I read that study and quite a few others, and I started studying zone 2 cardio, which to me, it was like a lot of the zone 2 cardio was like walking. And my brain, tell me if this is true for you, like my brain was like, there's no way. If I give up boxing, if I give up, the sprints that I'm doing, if I give up running, if I give up like all of these long bouts of intense cardio that I'm doing, I'm going to gain weight. Those are big time calorie burners for me. Walking? How do you burn fat walking? Isn't that what like the old ladies in the neighborhood do? Like, I don't want to do that. But yet what I was doing wasn't working. And if that's you, I want you to just give this a try. Like 1 month. For 1 month, like, would it kill you? What if you actually started seeing incredible results? Because it was when I made that change. It was not until I decided to stop doing the intense endurance cardio and just did low impact zone 2 cardio, specifically walking, that the body fat started to come off. That was important. But that wasn't the only thing I was after. I wanted muscle. I wanted deltoids. I want glutes. I want quadriceps. I want muscles on my legs. As we age, muscle is your fountain of youth. It changes your appearance. It diminishes the appearance of cellulite. And it's what allows us to, as we put on more muscle, the body starts elevating testosterone levels. And why is that important? For brain health, for cognition, for focus, for energy, for muscle development, human growth. Like that's what helps us to look younger. And yeah, some people do injections for human growth. Why? To look younger. But dude, you can increase your human growth production naturally by lifting weights. You can naturally improve your bone density by lifting heavy weights. Get this. I was diagnosed with osteopenia while I was lifting heavy weights because everything I was doing cardio-wise was destroying all the work that I was trying to put in terms of building muscle. Because if we aren't getting enough rest, if our body is inflamed, first of all, we don't absorb nutrients the same way. So even if you're eating a perfect diet, which nobody is, but even if I was eating a perfect diet, I wasn't absorbing the nutrients like the magnesium and the vitamin D and all the other calcium, the things that you need to create bone density. So I was diagnosed with osteopenia, and my general practitioner said to me, well, you might want to consider lifting, doing weight-bearing exercises. And I'm like, I am 5 days a week. So remember this. Even if you are doing all those things, it might be the other things you're doing that are diminishing your results in the gym. I've since been able to reverse my osteopenia. How did I do that? By cutting out the intense cardio, by allowing my body to rest, by focusing on zone 2 cardio. Zone 2 cardio can be done on cycling bike. You can do zone 2 cardio kickboxing. The key is not taking your heart rate to that elevated place, that place where you are having a hard time speaking, where it's, the difference between moderate intensity and intensity. You know the difference. And the hardest shift, I think, for a lot of us to make, those of us who grew up in that, it's not a good workout unless I'm about to cry. Every ounce of my clothing is drenched and I'm sucking wind and I'm, counting the seconds for this to be over. That was a mind shift to get myself to a place where I realized okay, I can actually see better results if I don't destroy myself in the gym. But doing so allowed my body to remodel bone. It allowed my body to build muscle. It allowed my body to properly synthesize the protein that I was consuming. Until then, my body was like in survival mode. And when we're in survival mode and you've got systemic inflammation going on, like your cortisol, you just can't beat that. You cannot escape the body fat. No matter what you're doing, you can't out-exercise it because your body is trying to protect you. We weren't meant to beat ourselves up in that way. So I know this is a real shift for a lot of us. It was scary, right? And there's no question that to a certain extent, in order to lose body fat, in order to melt off the pounds, right, and to like lose that layer of fat, we do have to create a little bit of a calorie deficit. But even if you're in calorie deficit, if at the same time your inflammatory markers are through the roof, your cortisol is through the roof, like you are fighting against yourself. So a better way to create it's so much easier, dude. It is so much more fun. It's so much better for you mentally to be doing zone 2 cardio. Like you'll actually look forward to it. You don't have to constantly be asking yourself, was my workout hard enough? If you know, you know. But when you do that, your body has the ability to build muscle. And muscle, we know, is a much more active tissue than body fat. So you're going to actually elevate your metabolism, and it doesn't happen overnight, but you're going to feel, and you may see the changes in as little as a month. I'm not going to tell you this is going to happen overnight, but if you stick to it, and if you focus on building muscle, how often? If you're brand new, I would recommend 2 times a week. 2 times a week, a full body workout is going to, especially if you're training to the point where you're almost reaching fatigue, right? So you're in that like 8 to 15 reps. And by the time you're nearing the end, I don't mean that you've like completely failed, but like if you kept going, your form would start to fail. That's what I mean when I say, trying to reach failure. If you focus on that full body workouts, like even just a 45-minute workout 2 days a week, if you're a newbie, you're going to see a tremendous change in your body composition if at the same time you're increasing your protein. Okay, so we want to, again, shoot for about a gram. You don't have to be a scientist about this. I've done a whole video. I'm going to link to the podcast I did, a super simplified way that doesn't involve like having to bring a calculator or like track every single macro. Because you know what? Eating a meal shouldn't feel like you've got to do math. That's how you got to live your life. But that does take some practice and it's a strategy. But it's like learning how to gauge, all right, what's the right amount of protein without having to weigh everything and measure everything and track everything. And if that's what you want to do, you can. That's great. I think for some people, it is ideal for them to track. But for me, that was stressful too. I'm like, I just want to live my life. Try to get your protein around a gram of your ideal body weight for the day. So if you want to be at about 150 pounds, if that's your ideal body weight, then you want to shoot for 150 grams of protein. If you even get close to it, you're going to be golden. You're going to be golden. Increase your fiber. Decrease the amount of processed foods that you're consuming. That's number 2. Number 1 was getting into the gym at least 2 days a week. If you are someone who's been lifting regularly, I would highly encourage you to add more days. I'm such a big fan of ladies, leg day. You've got to get in the gym and focus on your legs because more than 65% of your muscle is located from the chest down. It's your lower body. That's the biggest muscle groups in your body is your legs, your glutes, your quadriceps. Your lower body is a metabolism goldmine. Like you're going to boost your metabolism and that's going to change. It's going to change everything. It's going to change your confidence. It's going to change the way you live. It's going to change your ability to recover from injury. It's going to change your mobility. It's going to change everything. Like muscle is what you need in order to exercise more efficiently and spend less time doing endurance cardio. So the zone 2 cardio, how often do I recommend you do that? I would love for you to do that 3 times a week. I want to share with you some statistics. Here's one. Women who engage in weight-bearing activities just 3 times a week reduce their risk of osteopenia or osteoporosis by 40%. Did you know that 90% of women over age 50 are at risk of osteoporosis? And all you have to do is, again, just weight-bearing activity 3 times a week. Now, if you're somebody who's like, yeah, I'm not interested in and going to the gym, start by getting a weighted vest. Like if you're like, I can't afford a gym membership or a personal trainer, and I really need like the on-ramp. I really need, like, what is the very bare minimums I can start with to start increasing my bone density and start increasing the muscle that I have in my body? Here's what I want you to do. Buy yourself a weighted vest. We've been studying weighted vest use for more than 20 years. We know that you can increase bone density by 3% in less than 12 months just by wearing a weighted vest 3 times a week for 20 minutes. And you don't even have to go exercise in it. You can just like walk around your house in it and you'll increase your bone density. That's remarkable. So just pick an activity that you do 3 times a week in your house. Like maybe it's cleaning or putting things away or straightening up or walking on a treadmill, whatever it is. Just wearing a weighted vest. And when you're just starting out, you want to start, if your core is really weak and you don't have a lot of muscle today, start with a vest that's about 5% of your total weight. If you're already pretty strong, you're already pretty fit, you got a decently strong core, I would recommend starting with a weighted vest that's under or close to 10% of your body weight. I personally use a weighted vest that is 12 pounds, and it's perfect. It's ideal for me. But when I first got it, I was like, I felt like I was suffocating. It felt very heavy. So I started at 5 minutes a day, and then I get used to it, and then I go to 10 minutes, and then 20 minutes, and now I can wear it for, an hour of zone 2 walking. I wear it around my house. I regularly wear it because I want strong bones. Just doing air squats with your weighted vest is a wonderful way to start. But leg day is the key. So ultimately, no matter where you start, I'd like to get you up to 5 days a week so that you can age with power, so that you look better 5 years from now than you do today. And that's possible. You do have the ability to look better and feel better as you age, but it means you have less room for error. Like the things you used to be able to get away with when you're younger, you can't do that anymore. What used to work doesn't work anymore, and there's a reason why. So it's time to shift your thinking. It's time to think your beliefs, shift your beliefs, make it your goal to lift 5 days. So you love it. You can't wait. You can't wait to go to the gym, or you can't wait to pick up your heavy weights. Yes, of course you can do this at home. And if you're looking for a place to start, I've created a program called Phase It. And it's specifically created for women who want to know how to lift heavy weights the right way, like to apply progressive overload, to understand what periodization looks like, a program that changes every 6 to 8 weeks. So you know exactly how I would be training you if I was your personal trainer. So if you're looking for a place to start, I'll put a link below in our show notes, and I'd love to have you become a part of our community. It's a community specifically for women who are, perimenopausal to menopausal and beyond. You want to age with vitality. But the bottom line is this. If you've got limited amount of time and you're trying to figure out, okay, so should I be walking or should I be lifting weights? You should be lifting weights because you can get into that. You can get your cardio and your muscle at the same time. And why wouldn't you? Muscle is so sexy. It's the fountain of youth. Muscle is the key. Muscle burns fat. So if you want to melt fat, we got to put more muscle on and we got to slow down the cardio. Hey, I hope that you enjoyed this edition of The Chalene Show. Thank you so much for subscribing. Don't forget to leave me a comment below. And of course, all of the links to the studies that I referenced in this episode will also be found in our show description. Love you, mean it. Bye.